Hey, it's Terry Gorry, and this is the Irish Law and Small Business podcast.
Yanis Varoufakis. That's a name that might ring some bells with you if you're interested in politics and if you're interested in economics and finances and so on. He's a former Greek finance minister. He's an economist or a former economist. I think he did a degree or did some sort of a course in Harvard. He's a Marxist and he's a very wealthy gentleman. He showed up back in 2015 in London riding a Harley Davidson motorcycle and wearing a leather jacket. He's a bald head like myself, a shaved head, and he has a very glamorous wife, if memory serves me correctly. But he is a Marxist and became very popular amongst certain individuals in Ireland back in 2015 when there was a debate about burning the bondholders, burning the EU, not paying back the state's loans. So the state borrowed a lot of money and or guaranteed the banks, and ultimately bondholders were going to have to be paid or not paid, depending on your side of the argument. At the time, this Yanis Varoufakis was giving advice to Ireland, and it was being lapped up by the likes of Sinn Féin and many of the radical left TDs in the Dáil, who all agreed with him, who all agreed that the best thing for Ireland as a state to do was not to pay back the money that we owed, to burn the bondholders and let them swing. This was at a time when there was talk about and debate about the EU and the IMF finance package or loan package, etc. And I apologise if it's a bit windy. It is windy. I've got a furry thing there, what they call it, a dead cat thing on the microphone, but hopefully the sound is okay. But this Yanis Varoufakis had his arse handed to him on a plate only last week in the Greek general election, when his party was absolutely sent packing into oblivion. He was a hero to a variety of politicians and pundits in Ireland back in 2014-15, that time, who believed we should follow his advice, default on our debt, national debt, and refuse to cooperate with the EU IMF bailout. He was advocating the same sort of stance in Greece, and he ultimately then became the finance minister. He only lasted 6 months, but now, 8 years later or thereabouts, his party has been wiped out. They've lost all 8 or 9 seats that they had in the 9 seats in the 300-member Greek parliament, all gone. The main victor in the Greek elections last week, coincidentally, was a right-wing New Democracy party, and the reason that they won is because the guy who led that particular party or led that coalition got the public finances in Greece sorted out. That would never have happened if they followed the advice of this Yanis Varoufakis. The new Greek parliament is the most conservative parliament elected since the fall of the country's last dictatorship in 1974. The role of Varoufakis and his former comrades in the Syriza party, in discrediting a left-wing alternative, should not be underestimated, and has led to this most right-wing government in Greek democracy since 1974 coming into existence. He took office as the finance minister in the Syriza government in 2015, and within 6 months, notwithstanding the fact that he had boasted about negotiating a massive write-down of Greece's debt and putting an end to the long-running EU austerity programme, within 6 months he was turfed out of office. His confrontation with the EU led to a run on the Greek banks and the near collapse of the entire economy. It's worth saying that again. His run-in with the EU and his position, his view, the proposition he was putting forward, led to the collapse of the entire Greek economy. And this was a guy that Sinn Féin and certain most left-wing individuals in Ireland at the time in 2015 saw as an iconic hero. And let's burn the bondholders, let's burn the EU, let's burn the IMF, let's not pay back our loans. The spectacular failure of Varoufakis and his policy of confrontation with the EU didn't dent his appeal, but now he's been absolutely wiped out in the Greek Parliament with no seats. His frequent appearances in Ireland from time to time, and I think he attended a Sinn Féin conference, annual party conference, and I think Sinn Féin or some members of Sinn Féin went to the Syriza party annual general meeting, whatever you call it, conference in Greece. At the time was sort of notable and interesting, but now the ties between Sinn Féin and Syriza and between Sinn Féin and Yanis Varoufakis are not quite as apparent. People here were genuinely surprised at the degree of fawning over this man that occurred in certain sections of the media, despite the fact that what he was putting forward was a proposition of abject nonsense. Successive Irish finance ministers, the boring ones, the ones who did the hard work, the ones who did the emotional work, the likes of Brian Lenihan, the likes of Michael Noonan, the likes of Pascal O'Donoghue, the likes of the current Fianna Fáil lad, Michael, whatever his name is, from Cork, those guys have been proved to be right. Those guys, in getting the economy, getting the public finances back into kilter, have proved to be right with the Irish economy in 2023, the Irish public finances rather in 2023 being absolutely stuffed with money, replete with resources. How they deal with the resources after that is another matter entirely, and obviously people will have different views on what should be done and what shouldn't be done with surplus resources, but the fact of the matter is the Irish economy is in far, far better shape now than it would have been had it followed the charlatan, the advice of the reprobate Yanis Varoufakis, the former EU or former Greek finance minister, as I say, who has now been consigned to the dustbin of political history. It's gone full circle. O'Donoghue now has been elected, Pascal O'Donoghue has been elected to the prestigious position of chair of the Eurogroup of finance ministers, and it's an acknowledgement of how well the Irish economy has recovered over the last 8, 9, 10 years. The paradox is that if the opinion polls are to be believed, however, the range of political forces in Ireland who were enthusiastic cheerleaders for Yanis Varoufakis will probably win the next election in Ireland and will almost certainly form a government here. Syriza, as it happens in 2019, 4 years after being elected, were turfed out of office in 2019, and only then were the fortunes of the Greek economy turned around. Fantasy politics, fantasy economics, populist pronouncements are easy, but they are basically the refuge of scoundrels and charlatans and scammers and grifters. And Yanis Varoufakis, thankfully, has been found out. Not too soon, mind, but he has been found out, and he has been wiped out and consigned, as I say, to the dustbin of economic and political history. Hope you find this video interesting. If you do, I'd appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up down below. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who will have comments to make about Varoufakis and what he was suggesting and the state of the Irish economy now, but not really concerned about people who are unable or unwilling to look at facts, look at data, look at how good the Irish economy is actually performing vis-a-vis its European counterparts. vis-a-vis other countries in the world. But I've no doubt there's plenty of people out there going to be saying, oh, the Irish economy is banjaxed and it's no wonder the country is in the state it's in. Anyway, give the old video the thumbs up down below and leave a comment if you like.